5 biggest mistakes in property investment that nobody talks about, and how to avoid these pitfalls. So if you're really serious about your investment and you want your money to work a lot harder for you, and you want to avoid as many mistakes as you could possibly can, this video is for you. If you're really serious about it and you can invest 30 minutes to watch this video to learn how to avoid these 5 mistakes, I'm afraid if you start your property investment journey, you're likely to make these 5 mistakes, because I've seen so many people lose money, relationship, family because of these 5 mistakes. So stay until the end to learn every single mistake, because all of them are vitally important to get you to succeed in your property investment journey. Hey guys, my name is Rahim. I'm a property investor. I started my property investment journey just over 8 years ago. I was in a job where I was undervalued, underappreciated, going nowhere. I took the leap of faith to start my property investment journey. I was able to build up from 1, 2, 3 properties to building a multi-million-pound property investment portfolio. So what I'm about to share with you is coming from an experienced property investor, but also a professional accountant. So let's get to it. So what are these 5 mistakes existing, experienced and inexperienced investors make? Here's the first mistake I see most property investors do. They buy properties at the wrong location. What that means, basically, see people buying properties left, right and center, and they just go buy the property without even checking whether that property is situated in the locations where they can rent their property and make income from that property. So they end up buying a property maybe in a tiny village where there are only 500 or 600 people, or perhaps they buy a property that is very far from everything, and then they end up struggling to rent that property out. And they find out there's no demand. Not just there's no demand, but there's not even return, because they cannot rent the property the amount they anticipated to rent the property, but also even struggle to get someone to rent that property in the first, because they are restricted to the location, because it is a very tiny location. It is not close to a train station, but also it is just far from every single thing. And it is in a place where there are only 5 to 1,000 people living in that area. So basically, then it becomes really hard for them to buy these sort of properties, especially if the property is kind of reasonable. They think, oh, this property is cheap, it's really nice, I can rent it. And only for them to say, whoa, I cannot rent it, and it becomes a massive trouble. So buying a property in a wrong location is like buying an expensive suit that doesn't fit you. No matter how expensive or how high quality that suit is, if it doesn't suit you, it's uncomfortable and, quite frankly, useless. So how do you avoid buying properties in the wrong location? The first thing you want to do is to buy properties that are close to these various places. Talking about your train station, your property needs to be very close to a train station, very close to good public schools, very close to shopping center, town centers, but also in a city that has at least a minimum of 5,000 people living in that town or city. If the property that you're buying is not in this sort of location, perhaps you want to look elsewhere, because that's where you get your return, not just returns, but getting the right tenant to live in your property. Number 2, down valuation. So what does that mean? What that means, basically, sometimes you would buy a property with the intention to renovate it so you can add value to that investment property. So sometimes then when you buy that property, once you've done all the works, the valuation officer, the people that would value the property in order for you to get the value that you've added, tend to downvalue the property. So in essence, if you're expecting that property to worth, let's say, £170,000, someone come around and value it for, like, say, £150,000. That's what we call down valuation. It's coming from where you're expecting it to really where you've never been thinking about. So let's just take an example here. Suppose you bought a property for, like, say, £100,000, and the bank lend you 75% to buy that property. So the property worth £100,000. The bank lend you 75%, which is £75,000. Let's say then you invested, buy the property, you renovated it, and that cost you about £50,000. That then brings your total initial investment to £125,000. So this £125,000 is the investment you've made in order to add value to that investment property. So you're hoping then, once you've done all this work here, that property would be valued at £170,000. So that is the anticipation you make in order to be able to make money from it. But also that's the reason why you buy the property at £100,000, so you can force the value so that the property can be valued at £170,000. So at £170,000, so obviously it's a good way for you to be able to get your money back. Then the bank will lend you 75% of the £170,000. That would have been £127,500. As you can see then, £127,500 is more than £125,000. So in essence, then you would have been able to pay all your loan that you've borrowed to buy the property in the first place, plus also pay yourself the £50,000 plus £2,500 to spare. So in essence, you've recycled all your money at that point. So let's then say then that property then they get down valued by £150,000. So at that point then, at £150,000, the bank will only lend you 75% of that amount, which is £112,500. So if you've already invested £125,000, that means then basically you will not be able to refund all your initial investment, because here's the thing, the £75,000, yes, you're able to get that back out of the £112,000, but your £50,000 you won't be able to get back, because obviously it's not enough in order to pay. So in essence, you are in a deficit of £12,500. So in essence then, because the property has been downvalued here, it means then you will not be able to get all your £50,000 back. So if you're to borrow that money from an investor, that investor will not be able to get that £50,000 back. So therefore, you would have gone and find a way to get £12,500 in order to be able to pay your investor back. Meaning then that you may not be able to kind of rent the property, because the investor will go back at you saying, look, I need my money back. If I don't get my money back, I will repossess the property. I know it wouldn't go that far, but it's just for you to kind of understand that how down valuation could really impact your property investment journey. So you got to ensure that this works. So how do you ensure this works? Oh, sorry for interrupting this video. I just wanted to draw your attention to a guide I've just created. This guide is for you if you're looking to start and scale in property investment, and you've got questions that you want to ask in order to start your property investment. This guide is the ultimate guide to start and scale in property investment journey. I talk about the different type of investment strategies. I also discuss the 11 ways you can raise finance to make any property no money down deals, and the type of properties to buy in order to generate a serious return in your investment. And I'm giving this book away for completely free of charge, no string attached, nothing, absolutely free. Click the link on the description of this video to get your free guide now. We've only got a limited number of these copies available as well, so click the link to get your guide now. Let's get back to our video. The way you ensure buying a property that is not going to be downvalued, firstly, is ensuring number one, risk one is avoided. Because once you've avoided buying the property in the wrong location, what that means basically, you're likely to be able to rent the property. That property value is likely to go up as well because of the location. But also, the other thing also you want to be thinking about when you're buying houses that you need to do up, you got to do two things. The first thing you want to do, you want to buy a dilapidated house, a house that requires work, because if it doesn't require work, then obviously you're not going to make money from it. It's not like I just want to change a kitchen, a bathroom, and then that's done. I'm able to recycle my money. I really wish that is the case, but it's no longer the case. Maybe in 2006 or maybe 2007 it was the case, but in today's world it does not work like that. You've got to be able to add significant value in order to be able to get a higher valuation. So doing it that way, it's not going to work. Upgrading bathroom, kitchen, maybe doing the landscaping at the back garden, no. You got to be able to add value in that property. One, dilapidated house. Two, you got to know how to buy the house. In order for you to get the property to come back at the value you want it to, you got to buy the property at discount. So what do I even mean? So if the property is on the market for £100,000, you want to go and buy that property for at least 15% below market. So if you buy that property 15% below the £100,000, you're talking about £15,000 at discount. So basically you take the £15,000 off the £100,000, that gives you £85,000. So then you can buy the same property at £85,000. That makes a huge difference. It means you've got lower loan here, but also it means once you've remortgaged the property at £170,000, you'll be able to pay all your investors plus more money to spare. So these two things, you've got to ensure these two things are done before you buy your investment property. The first one is to buy a dilapidated house, a house that needs real work, not bathroom, kitchen upgrade. No, I'm talking about real work here. Secondly, you got to buy the property at discount, and that's what I'm very, very good at. Touch base. Most of my investors, where we are able to recycle our money out so that we can go again and buy more investment properties. So you got to ensure you know your figures, knowing that you get your renovation cost, maybe not bang on, but nearly there, in order for you to be able to recycle your money. And if you want to learn how to do this, there's a link in the description below. Click on that link to book one of my specialists. We may be able to help you, guide you on how you can buy properties like this that would enable you to recycle all your money so you can go again and buy more houses and never having to run out of money. Number 3, refurbishment. Refurbishment, this is one of the biggest killers as well. I've seen so many investors make mistake in this. So what they do basically, they buy a dilapidated house, right? And they underestimate the refurbishment works. You see where we've estimated our refurbishment work to be like, say, for £50,000, some investors will be so excited, really, really happy that they've bought a dilapidated house. Instead of actually estimating the refurbishment to be 50K, they go on and estimate it to be £40,000. And here's what happened then. They start the renovation works, everything looks fine, only for them to find out, oh, sugar, I cannot really renovate this property for £40,000. And then obviously if they haven't got money, they then have to struggle to raise the other 10K to make sure that they're able to complete the renovation. Because here's the thing then, if you start your renovation, you're not gonna go halfway and stop. You got to finish the renovation, because if you don't finish it, you've got no property. And that valuation that you actually think that you're gonna get, you're not gonna get it, because obviously there's no sort of completion work. So it puts some investors in a very, very tight situation. I've seen so many investors literally lose serious money in this, not just because of the 10K, but because they haven't got the 10K here, they've got a loan here when they bought the property that is maybe for just about 12 months. So they then sat around looking for 10K to complete this work for like maybe 10 or 11 months, and they never end up getting that money. So once they not get that money, then that is where the problems really set in. So they've got their mortgage to renew the mortgage, which is a bridging loan in most cases, at month 12. And then at month 12, they still have not completed the works. And at month 11, the bridging loan would have already contacted them, knocking their doors. Hello, we need our money back, Comes to month 12 now, they haven't got that money. Guess what? Two things happen at that point. If they were very clever at the first place, the bridging loan will offer to extend that loan. They will offer to extend the loan they used to buy the property. Sometimes they will extend it for another 12 months, but that comes with a fee. In most cases, the bridging loan will charge you 5% of whatever your loan amount is. Suppose then your loan was, say, £75,000. 5% of that is £3,750. If you're already struggling here to raise this 10K, and now all of a sudden you've got another £3,750 to actually get you going, you're talking about £13,750. So that then is where the trouble kicks in. And when the trouble kicks in there, at that point, most investors are like, whoa, this is too much for me, I cannot afford it, I cannot do it. They give up, and then obviously end up losing the property. They don't just lose the property, they have credit issues, they would have so many stuff going around their investment journey, and then they really get worried and scared about investing property, and then they said property does not work. So how do you avoid going through this nightmare? The first thing you do to avoid this is to ensure you overestimate your renovation cost. What do I mean? If you anticipate, for example, your renovation cost to say to be £45,000, you can literally overestimate it by 10%. So 10% of £40,000 is about, say, let's say £4,000. So you can overestimate it to, like, say, £4,000 or maybe £5,000. That then takes us to the, let's say, whatever amount. So you got to overestimate it in order for you to fall into the figure you want to be. For example, that £50,000 you see as the renovation cost in the example at risk number 2 is, you can see it's overestimated renovation cost. Overestimated. So you only overestimate it. You don't get ridiculous surprises. You get pleasant surprises in that case. So in essence then, you got to overestimate your expenses first before you even consider buying that investment property, because you want to have pleasant surprises, but also getting the right people to do the renovation work. What do I mean by that? Getting the builders that know what they're doing, that can help you get cheaper materials, but also that can complete the renovation in time without any delays or things like that, because you want to get this right here. If you don't get it right here, literally you are in a big trouble. And most importantly, you got to know how to buy materials, meaning you got to buy these materials at discount in order for it to really work for you. You've got to have suppliers, credit account and all that sort of thing to ensure that you buy these properties at discount. So that way you'll be able to avoid going through that pitfall. Number 4, bad tenant. This is what not been talked about a lot, bad tenant. Having a bad tenant in your property is like having a car where one of the wheels are actually not functioning. In essence, one of the wheels are punctured. So basically you cannot drive that car because it's not going to move because one of the wheels are not working. So basically that's what bad tenant is like in your investment property. As you can see then, bad tenant just ruin every single thing with your investment property, especially spending £50,000 in doing your property up, right? Borrowing all that money from the bank to ensure you do the property nightly, only to get a bad tenant in your property that doesn't pay you rent. That is a very, very bad situation to be in. Again, I've seen so many investors getting so excited, they buy this property, the properties look really, really nice and tidy. And because they're desperately looking to rent the property, they don't think about what type of tenant they want at the property, what sort of people they want to rent the property. They just get random agents to go and get them tenant. They don't care where that tenant came from. And they don't emphasize to the agent that I want working professional families in my property, or working tenant or good tenant in my property. They just want the property to be rented basically. Got this tenant in and it causes them all these nightmare issues, and then it becomes a bad investment property. Now you're watching this. If you're watching this until now, basically, you're one of those smart people, by the way. Congratulations for watching until now. So how do you avoid this? The way you avoid having bad tenants in your property is doing your due diligence, but also making your investment properties your duty, obligation, and responsibility. You do not leave it to the agency. You got to stipulate to the agency the type of people you want to live in your property. 1, you got to tell them, look, I need a working professional that is earning X amount of money, right? So you got to know that. You got to be specific. You got to tell them that. But also you can tell them, look, if they're not earning this amount of money, I need them to be able to have a guarantor. Someone that would say, look, if Peter do not pay the rent, I will pay the rent. So in essence, they then become the deterrent to ensuring Peter pays the rent, right? Having a guarantor for your property, very, 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 very useful. It ensures, it reinvents your monthly income. The other thing also you want to implement is that saying, look, I love all my tenants, but you got to ensure the tenant do not have bad credit rating. What does that even mean? What that means basically, they have not been in a problem, a financial problem, not being able to pay for whatever they owe someone. Some of them may have CCJ, but it's CCJ is something that we call county court judgment. They don't pay their debts. So they don't pay their loans. They don't literally take their finances seriously. So you got to make sure they are clear in that sort of thing. Here's the thing, if they're not used to paying their debt, they are more likely not to pay you your rent. Okay, especially now they know that once they're in your property, you've got so many laws around them to kind of protect them as a tenant. You really want to make sure that they are reference checked properly, that they haven't got CCJs on their name, they have got good credit scores, they have a guarantor with them, and they're earning certain amount of income. So if they've been renting properties previously, you got to get a landlord reference. You want to write this down. What type of landlord reference do you need? You don't need the current landlord reference, because here's the thing, if the current landlord wants to kick them out of their property because they're not been paying rent, they're not looking after the property, they will give them all this nice, amazing reference, right? Because obviously they want to kick them out. But here's what you want to ask your agency to do, or your management agent to do. You want to ask them to actually ask for the previous landlord reference. I hope you understand what I mean. It's not the current landlord, but previous landlord. So they're currently here right, living in this house now, and they want to move into your house here. Forgive my handwriting, right? They want to move into your house. So you don't want the reference of this landlord here, because this is the current landlord, right? The current landlord. You want the reference from the previous landlord. This is the landlord that they've already left the property maybe 2, 3, or maybe even 5 or 6 years ago. Because with this landlord then, this landlord here is likely to give a better reference for your property or to that tenant, because they've got nothing to lose at that point, right? He's left long time ago, or they've left long time ago, so they can be honest and transparent at that point. But if you ask this person here, and they don't want those tenants, they're gonna say so many nice things about that tenant because they want to get rid. Okay, so you want to use these people. This is vitally important. I've seen people, actually, I was a victim of this. I always used to ask for the current landlord's referencing, only to realize actually 99.9% of the time, this landlord here gives amazing referencing. But this landlord here, the previous landlord, is the honest landlord. This is the landlord that will give you an amazing reference that would help you make a decision whether to get that tenant or not. Number 5, the most important, if not the important, risk involved. The other risk is inexperience. So what do I mean by inexperience? So I've seen so many investors, they see a friend or they watch YouTube videos, Instagram post, LinkedIn post about someone doing something to do with properties, and they're like, oh, this is very easy. They jump into buying properties without having any experience, thinking, oh, it's gonna be an easy sale, only for them to realize, whoa, it is not an easy thing to do. They literally jump on buying this property without a guidance, without experience, without knowing what they're doing, and they end up then buying the property in a wrong price, wrong location, doing the renovation work all badly, getting the wrong tenants there, and then they end up literally having a nightmare in an investment property, and they never enjoy it, and they just see, look, it's another job, it's another nightmare, it's another problem, and they end up not doing anything about investing. So they just literally want to flog the property so they can go and working for someone, thinking that would be the easiest option, not knowing that that's one of the worst things they could ever do. But that's what they would do. Inexperience, literally, they know this is not for them, they don't know what they're doing, then they end up doing all the wrong thing. But here's the thing, how do you avoid this? The way you avoid this, the one thing you have got to do, I cannot emphasize how important this is to educate yourself. When I'm talking about education here, I'm not talking about your university degrees or your PhDs or your masters. I'm talking about self-education. In essence, is to get someone who's doing exactly what you want to do, buying, renovating properties, to educate you, to guide you on how to execute, right? Get them to mentor you, get them to coach you, spend a few days with them, maybe invite them for a meal, do whatever it takes basically to learn before you actually start that experience. You can, for example, get a mentoring, as I just said. You can get coaching sessions, or you can do consultation. So meaning then, if you can do all this free here, it helps with this inexperience here. So if you've got someone to mentor you, then obviously you've got almost 24 hours access to them. You can ask them questions anytime, anywhere. Whenever you have a problem, you can just contact them. They will help you resolve those problems. But also, they will also, some instance, sat with you to help you buy the right property, talk you through the renovation, obviously, get you to avoid all these tenant issues. And that way, they are literally holding your hand to take you to the promised land. The second type of person you want to be looking at is a coaching sessions. Coaching sessions where maybe you can sit with a group of people, where you've got someone to coach you, tell you about investment properties, teach you what you need to look out for, what are the pros and cons, how you can start your process. So someone that can literally coach you to get you to where you want to go. But I kind of a bit worried about this part of the advice here, because coaches could be people who have never bought a property, but they've got the theory in their head. Imagine here, a football coach, right? Football coaches, some of them have never played football, but they've got the experience to kind of train football players to become really, really good football players, but they can't play football, right? So you've got coaches like that as well when it comes to properties. You get some coaches that are really good in coaching people to buy houses, but looking back, they've never probably bought any house. Perhaps maybe they only buy 1 or 2 houses, but they may be good in coaching you, but you've got to kind of weigh that in. Do you want someone that's actually walking the walk and talking the talk, or maybe you only want someone that will just coach you like the football coaches do? So it is entirely up to you. Or perhaps then if you don't need any of these people, you can look for a consultation. Someone is very experienced, usually a mentor at this point, right? Some mentors would offer consultations where you can kind of go in an appointment basis, where whenever you hit a stumbling block, you book an appointment with them. They can kind of guide you along the way, or maybe before or during the process as well, you can kind of book a consultation to kind of talk to them. Or maybe you buy the property, they walk you through what you need to do in order to complete the renovation. But consultations sometimes tend to be a bit more expensive. Why? Because it is a business, right? Some of these people that are doing consultation, they will not give you all the answers in one go, because obviously if they did, you're not going to come back, right? They would want to give you some so you can rebook them again for another consultation, so that they can advise you again and hold back some information. So they're hoping that you can come back and book. So you end up having so many consultations that may equate to the same amount you would have paid for someone to mentor you along the way. So yes, you got to kind of understand where you are at your property investment journey and what sort of things are you looking for, right? And then you can then tailor that based on your need. All these ways could get you to your destination, but it is depend on your goals, your aims and objectives in order to get you to your destination. So these are the 5 risks you want to avoid. Whether you're doing your investment journey now or you're just about to start your property investment journey, you got to make sure you do not make these mistakes by, most importantly, doing this thing here. Making sure you change this inexperience to experience, i.e. having the knowledge, expertise, getting a mentor, a coach or a consultant to work with you to help you buy the property, renovate the property, rent the property, so you can start making new money. So here's the thing, if any of this risk that you really want to avoid, whether you're an experienced investor or you're just starting, there's a link on the description below. Click on that link to book one of my specialists. They will walk you through the process, how you and I can work together to help you get you a little bit closer to your financial freedom. Perhaps if you already started, to get you to expedite your property investment journey. I really hope this video has been helpful. If this video has been helpful, smash the like button below, subscribe to my channel for more amazing videos. I look forward to sharing the next one.